Chapter 101. Ridiculed by Zhao Yueru in such a way, the expressions on Xi Feng's party members turned dark. Even if Blackie loved beautiful women, he was still unable to overlook such an action. How could a great beauty like her have such a poisonous mouth? Although Blackie wanted to refute her, his words were unable to leave his mouth. The Dark Moon Graveyard was just too hard. Even if they believed in Xi Feng's strengths and techniques, when faced with so many elites and special elites, who could guarantee that they'd be able to pass through? What? Nothing to say? Zhao Yueru asked coldly when Xi Feng had remained silent as if he were in deep thought. The members of Ouroboros were also looking at Xi Feng with disdain. They were already feeling despair towards the Dark Moon Graveyard, and even Gentle Snow felt helpless. So, what could a beta tester, with only some slightly good techniques, do? You're just a beta tester. Who doesn't know how to talk big? If you have the ability, then you take command and kill all of those monsters. If you don't, stop spouting bullshit. Humph. Just a bunch of independent players foolishly making second guesses after we can't get through. The members of Ouroboros all had their own arrogance. They all supported Zhao Yueru, one after another. They hurled all sorts of ridicule towards Xi Feng, venting the despair in their hearts. What did guys you say? If it weren't for Brother Feng, would you still be alive right now? Xi Feng's party members could no longer stand by idly and watch. Every one of them revealed expressions of anger, intentions of starting a fight surfacing. If it weren't for Xi Feng's warning, both of the team's MTs would have died. Without the MTs to act as meat shields, the players behind would have definitely died, and it would be lucky if even a few survived. Just as both sides were about to start a dispute, a deep muffled voice came from the team, disrupting everyone's argument. Every one of the team members was dumbstruck, thinking they had misheard. After observing the surrounding area and those monsters, I've thought of a way to get through the fog. I wonder if Miss Snow would be willing to let me take command? Xi Feng faintly smiled as he looked at Gentle Snow. Regarding the ridicules of Zhao Yueru and the others, Xi Feng did not mind them in the slightest. That was because everything was going according to his plan. From the moment Zhao Yueru started mocking him, his goals had already been achieved. If Zhao Yueru and the others did not react the way they did, how would he be able to seize the opportunity to take the initiative? If you can lead everyone across the fog, it won't be a problem to pass leadership to you. Gentle Snow's iceberg-like expression faintly changed. Being able to get through the fog was a good thing. She was also not a petty person. It was just that, for some reason, when she looked at Xi Feng's smile, she had a faint feeling of disharmony, as if all of this was within Xi Feng's grasp. Snow, I was only joking. How could you give this bastard leadership over the team? Zhao Yueru panicked. Ouroboros' first vice leader was actually being commanded by an outsider. Wouldn't that make them the laughingstock of the other first-rate guilds? They would call out Ouroboros for their inability. If you have any other methods to pass through, I won't really mind. Xi Feng shrugged, spreading his hands to signify that he did not care. Zhao Yueru wanted to dissuade Gentle Snow. She had only been speaking out of anger before. If Xi Feng had really become the team's leader, then wouldn't an upheaval occur within the team? Who would be willing to submit to an independent player? Even if Xi Feng's techniques were quite good, there were still heaps of such personnel within the guild. Okay, now is not the time to care about reputation. Clearing this dungeon is our priority. From now on, Yi Feng will command the team. His words are my words. If anybody doesn't listen, you'll know the consequences, Gentle Snow said in a chilling tone. Gentle Snow naturally knew Zhao Yueru's concerns. She, too, had considered the problems. However, if they gave up the team dungeon's first clear due to this little reputation, that would truly cause their guild to become the laughingstock of other guilds. Alright, then. Whatever you say. However, if he doesn't command us adequately, only blindly giving out orders, I won't obey. Zhao Yueru shot a glance at Shi Feng in anger. She did not believe that Shi Feng could properly command the team, not to mention lead them through the fogged area. After all, Shi Feng was just an independent player. It was impossible for him to have any experience in commanding a team. In a moment, she would watch and make fun of Shi Feng making a fool of himself. Seeing that Gentle Snow had already nodded her head in agreement, Shi Feng unhurriedly said, "Since we're done with the matter of leadership, let's talk about the matter of distribution. All of the equipment will be given out according to job requirements, while the other items will be auctioned within the team. Any problems?" Yi Feng. "Don't go overboard." Zhao Yueru glared at Shi Feng like a wrathful tigress. "Miss Zhao, I'm not trying to swindle even a single item. We're just fairly competing inside the dungeon, so is there a need to talk about going overboard?" Shi Feng calmly smiled. Previously, Shi Feng agreed to Gentle Snow's arrangements because he did not possess the power to back himself up. He knew the strategy to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard. However, he couldn't reveal that fact earlier. After all, Team Dungeons had not activated during the beta test of God's domain. Hence, if Shi Feng were to reveal knowledge that not even beta testers of God's domain had, Gentle Snow and the others would definitely become suspicious. Now, everyone was aware of the Dark Moon Graveyard's information. Moreover, Shi Feng, himself, had followed them into the dungeon. As long as Shi Feng performed thinking up a strategy, naturally, no one would question him. Even the astute Gentle Snow would not suspect Shi Feng had long since known how to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard. Zhao Yueru became speechless from anger. She felt Shi Feng was just a scoundrel intoxicated by success. On the other hand, Gentle Snow did not hesitate as she revealed a faint smile, calmly saying, "All right. As long as we can get through, I'll agree to your conditions." Snow! Zhao Yueru did not dare believe her own ears. Gentle Snow agreed, just like that. Recipes for lifestyle jobs. The ones dropped from Team Dungeons were even more priceless. How could they just let others take advantage of them? Enough. It's all just a waste of breath if we can't get through the dungeon. If we manage to get through and an item drops, we'll just buy it as is. Do you think an independent player like Yi Feng is wealthier than us? Gentle Snow softly explained. Hearing this, Zhao Yueru came to a realization. If they were competing regarding capabilities, even 100 Yi Fengs would not be a match for them. At the end of the day, the item would still be theirs. Humph. Humph. Be pleased with yourself while you can. Zhao Yueru's mood greatly improved. She even looked forward to clearing the dungeon as quickly as possible, obtaining several recipes. She wanted Shi Feng to know just how foolish his decision was. Since I will be commanding the team from now on, let's first leave the dungeon and re-enter it once everybody gathers. Shi Feng took out a return scroll and started chanting. Using a return scroll inside a dungeon would automatically send players back to the dungeon's entrance, saving players the wasted time running back. The others also promptly took out return scrolls after watching Shi Feng do so. Indeed, 3 people had died in the team, so some reorganization was necessary. Outside the Dark Moon Graveyard, many teams belonging to guilds had returned after dying. They were currently reorganizing themselves, preparing to challenge the dungeon once more. When they saw the Snow Goddess and her team leave the dungeon, they all were abruptly shocked. All of them hurriedly looked towards the glory list at the dungeon's entrance. The Snow Goddess' fame was extremely great. In addition to so many of her team members leaving through the dungeon's entrance, there was a high chance that they had already cleared the dungeon. However, the glory list was still as empty as ever. Everyone let loose a breath of relief. They continued with their rest, discussing how they would raid the dungeon. After over a dozen minutes, the entire team was assembled. Everyone, once more, walked towards the teleportation gate. As the leader of the team, Shi Feng immediately adjusted the dungeon's difficulty to Hell mode. Immediately, the color of the teleportation gate changed. A flickering image of a ghost's head appeared, causing others to shudder. Before anyone within the team could react, they turned into black rays of light as they entered the Dark Moon graveyard. Outside the dungeon's entrance, the members of the various guilds were all dumbfounded. What sort of situation was this? Didn't they just enter normal mode once? After understanding some information about the Dark Moon graveyard, they're already starting to raid Hell mode? Was there a need to be so strong-willed? Chapter 102. The sky was dark, and the bright moon illuminated all of the Dark Moon graveyard. Compared to the normal mode of the Dark Moon graveyard, a great expanse of dense fog shrouded the wasteland. Not only did it obstruct one's vision, but it also carried with it an endless air of murder. It was like a battlefield. A heavy and oppressive feeling permeated the wasteland, causing one's body to grow sluggish. This is the Hell mode of the Dark Moon graveyard? Gentle Snow surveyed her surroundings, revealing an indifferent smile. She discovered that the fog here was almost alive, and she felt as if she were being watched. Moreover, there were crimson-red spots glowing, floating about the fog, most likely the blood-red eyes of the kobolds. Just the number of monsters here far exceeded that of the normal mode. Moreover, there was also the dense fog hindering one's vision, greatly increasing the difficulty of battle. Yi Feng, what are you trying to do here? Why did you bring us to hell? Zhao Yueru looked towards Shi Feng, interrogating him. After experiencing the terror of normal mode, even an idiot knew how horrifying hell mode would be. This was not a place for people at all. Right now, they could not even clear normal mode, so coming to hell mode was just plain suicide. Gentle Snow was also curious as to why Shi Feng had done such a thing. Judging from Shi Feng's behavior, he was definitely not a brainless person. Even Shi Feng's own party members were extremely curious. They had clearly agreed on entering the normal mode, yet, why had they entered hell mode? I'm the team leader now, my words are final. Since I've chosen hell mode, I obviously have my own reasons. You may leave if you have any opinions about it. I won't be stopping you, Shi Feng said with a smile. What comes around, goes around. Previously, he had only humbly submitted to Zhao Yueru because he could not reveal his hand. Now that they were in his territory, naturally, he would no longer act with modesty. You bully Tilda. Zhao Yueru's almond eyes widened into circles as she glared at Shi Feng, her twin peaks bouncing indefinitely. She stomped the rock beneath her feet, unable to find any words. She gritted her teeth, immediately turning her head away and no longer looking at Shi Feng. This scoundrel actually went so far as to use her previous words to spite her, possessing not even a hint of a gentleman. When all of this was over, she would properly put Shi Feng in his place. Originally, Blackie intended to mediate between the two. However, when he saw Zhao Yueru's sudden silence, not speaking even a word, he secretly raised his thumb at Shi Feng. As expected of Brother Feng, he even dared meet a great beauty head-on. If he were standing in Shi Feng's position, he would not have been able to do such a thing. Yi Feng, do you really have the confidence to clear hell mode? You should know that, although the difficulty is only different by 2 levels on the surface, in reality it is 10 or more times harder. The requirement of equipment, cooperation, and leadership also increases by several levels. I don't want my team members to die a meaningless death, Gentle Snow softly asked. Although the death penalty inside team dungeons was much lower than the death penalty in party dungeons, it was still a 5% experience loss. Moreover, hell mode was different than the other difficulties. The loss of experience in hell mode after a single death was 10%. Without a success rate of 70% or above, most players were unwilling to dive into the hell mode of a dungeon. There should be no problems. However, we still have to try before we can know the results. Shi Feng did not reveal his full opinion. Based on the team's current composition and equipment, Shi Feng was extremely confident of clearing the hell mode of the Dark Moon graveyard. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen Hell mode in the first place. In Shi Feng's previous life, only after going through countless team wipes and experience accumulation, he figured out several methods of passing through the Hell mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. If he let Gentle Snow to fumble about slowly, who knew how long he would have to wait or how many team wipes they'd have to go through before they successfully passed through. Watching Shi Feng's calm behavior, after giving it some thought, Gentle Snow decided to support Shi Feng's decision. It was a good chance for her to observe the extent of Shi Feng's capabilities. If he performed well, it would be beneficial to invite him to join the god-slaying army. Gentle Snow nodded. At this time, even if the others were still unwilling, they had no choice but to listen to Shi Feng's commands. However, it was not because they believed in Shi Feng. Rather, they believed in Gentle Snow's decision. After which, Shi Feng started assigning responsibilities. Overall, his arrangements were mostly similar to Gentle Snow's. The difference was that he placed 3 elementalists in the Dagger Party and disbanded the Scout Party to place their members in the Protection Party instead, protecting the healers. After entering the fog, both MTs are to activate your life-saving skills and rush after me without stopping. However, pay attention to dodge attacks. Everyone in the back must also follow, and remember, no matter what happens, never stop moving your feet. Healers only need to use instant cast skills to heal the 2 MTs. Everyone else should use your own recovery potions, Shi Feng explained. If all of you understand, then everyone should use a speed scroll now. Everyone grew suspicious after hearing Shi Feng. What was he trying to do, turn them into kamikazes? He even wanted them to use speed scrolls. Was he complaining that they wouldn't die quick enough? Moreover, they could only earn so much money from a trip into the dungeon. There were 20 players in the entire team, which meant they would be expending 20 speed scrolls. Just how much money was that? Alright, everyone just use your speed scrolls. Noticing the unwillingness in everyone's eyes, Gentle Snow could only helplessly support the command. Everyone was helpless. Speed scrolls were very expensive, and each of them had only prepared 2. However, before they even started killing monsters, they were already required to use one of them. This was just too extravagant. However, such a decision did not alarm Shi Feng's party members. Speed scrolls had long since become a necessity for them to grind elite monsters, so they each had 6 or 7 on their person. After everyone used a speed scroll, they followed Shi Feng towards the entrance of the maze area. Follow closely. I won't concern myself if you fall behind, Shi Feng reminded in the team chat. Having Shi Feng tell them in such a way, everyone became nervous. If they fell behind, needless to say, only death waited for them. Run! After seeing everybody ready, Shi Feng activated his title, Might of 1,000, greatly increasing everyone's attributes. As a result, their running speed also increased. Before shock took hold of anyone over their increased attributes, Shi Feng started running. Every one of them tightly chased after him, disappearing into the fog. Within, the fog massively limited everyone's vision. They could only barely make out an area of 5 yards. After running for some time, Shi Feng suddenly said, MTs, use your life-saving skills. Healers, heal. Hearing Shi Feng's commands, the 2 MTs started activating their life-saving skills. The healers also started using their healing skills on the 2 MTs. Following which, black rays appeared, fired out from the fog. The black rays struck the 2 MTs, dealing a horrifying amount of damage. Fortunately, the healers constantly replenished their HPs to make up for the damage they received. In addition, the 2 MTs had high movement speeds, reducing the chances of the black rays striking them. With the 2 MTs taking the full brunt of the damage, the other team members behind had nothing to worry about. In such a way, everyone ran after Shi Feng for a full 10 minutes, making twists and turns every so often. In between, they all used another speed scroll. If the healers were lacking mana, they would drink mana recovery potions. Such a situation worried the members of Ouroboros greatly. How was this still a dungeon raid? They were just throwing money away. Moreover, everyone clearly felt the countless monsters closely chasing after them. The monsters constantly bellowed, and as long as they halted their steps, those monsters would definitely kill them. Fortunately, this place was just like a maze. There were plenty of paths available for them. Moreover, the paths were relatively narrow, resulting in a situation where the monsters hindered each other's advance. As a result, it would not be easy for the monsters to catch up to the team. Turn left ahead and enter the small path. After everyone has entered, both MTs block the entrance of the path and use your life-saving skills. Healers, spam your heals on them. Blackie, prepare to use Hell Flame. When the MTs are unable to hold on, the 3 elementalists should use Frozen Nova to block the monsters. If the MTs die, all melees are to stand forward and block the way, but none of you are allowed to attack. Shi Feng immediately shouted in the team's chat as he looked towards the small path a short distance away. Following which, everyone quickly poured into the narrow pathway. Both the MTs just happened to block the entire entrance of this path successfully. When both MTs were in position, they received powerful attacks, one after another, constantly pushing them backward. Damage appeared above their heads endlessly. Just as the two of them were about to be sent flying from the barrage of attacks, Shi Feng placed both his hands on their backs, bracing against them. The two MTs felt like they leaned against a wall, their bodies unable to retreat any further. Blackie, hurry up! Elementalists, prepare your Frozen Novas! Shi Feng hurriedly commanded. I'm ready! Blackie chanted the final incantation. MTs, retreat! Elementalists, cast Frozen Nova! Shi Feng yelled. Following which, a Frozen Nova spread out to encompass all the monsters, freezing them and stopping their movements. Over 20 points of damage appeared over every monster's head. Such a high ice resistance. Zhao Yuru's brows slightly cringed. She was extremely dissatisfied with the damage she inflicted. At this time, pillars of green-colored flames shot up amidst the monsters, causing damages of over -300 to every monster. The pillars of flame lasted for 5 seconds, and during this period, the monster's HP incessantly fell. This scene dumbfounded everyone. Even Blackie, himself, was stunned. Wasn't this damage a little too high? After all, these monsters were all elites and special elites. Being able to cause damages of over -100 was fortunate. However, what Blackie did not know was that the kobolds in the Dark Moon Graveyard lived in this cold and dark environment for many years now. They loved the cold but were afraid of fire. Hence, the damage from fire-attributed magic would be multiplied by several folds. It was especially true for the kobold zombies, as they feared fire the most. After Hell Flame ended, the two MTs stepped forward once more to block the monsters. Due to the road being narrow, only 2 or 3 monsters could attack at a single time. If it was the large-sized kobold zombies, just one of them was enough to fill the entire path. Moreover, the kobold zombies were unable to display their might in such a narrow space. At most, 1 or 2 claw attacks would land on the MTs, and even then, the MTs were sharing the burden with each other. As a result, the kobold zombies became utterly harmless. After more than 10 minutes passed, Blackie's Hell Flame annihilated the kobolds that rushed towards the team. Everyone's experience greatly increased as a result, and there was even a pile of dropped items. The members of Ouroboros were astonished. Although Blackie's magic surprised them, Shi Feng's strategy thoroughly stunned them. He was actually able to think up such a strategy and discover such a location. His mind and perception were truly great. Members of Ouroboros had always revered the strong. As a result, every one of them now felt embarrassed over their previous slandering of Shi Feng. Even Zhao Yueru was rendered speechless after witnessing Shi Feng's leadership. However, she still felt hatred for Shi Feng inside her heart. She silently lamented over the stupidity of these monsters. As expected, he does possess real skill. It is no wonder he rose to level 6 so quickly. Gentle Snow started her re-evaluation of Shi Feng's strength. She did not imagine that he would be capable to this degree. Not only did he possess a title that could raise the entire team's attributes, but he also had such a frightening perception. Shi Feng's performance far exceeded her expectations. If her team had such personnel in the future, they would have a much easier time conquering dungeons. A total of 28 pieces of equipment dropped. Among them, there are 9 pieces of mysterious iron rank, while the rest are bronze equipment. We'll distribute them according to jobs. Shi Feng arranged the loot and distributed the equipment. He distributed them accordingly, and players who had similar jobs would roll for the equipment, with the higher number obtaining the equipment. Hearing Shi Feng report their gains, everyone sucked in a deep breath. They were unable to utter a single word due to their excitement. Currently, mysterious iron equipment was considered top-tier equipment. Previously, they had killed so many monsters in the normal mode of Dark Moon Graveyard, yet, only a few pieces of bronze equipment dropped. Right now, however, they only killed a large wave of monsters, but already obtained so much mysterious iron equipment and bronze equipment. This drop rate was just too frightening. Chapter 103. Discovering that the hell mode of a dungeon dropped so much valuable equipment, even Gentle Snow was stunned. If they could clear the hell mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard, it was unknown just how much top-tier equipment they could obtain. With top-tier equipment, they would have a much easier time conquering the other team dungeons. Thinking up to this point, Gentle Snow became much more interested towards conquering the hell mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. It was just that she did not know whether Shi Feng was capable of accomplishing this magnificent feat. After Shi Feng distributed the equipment, many of the team members immediately swapped out their old equipment for the new. It was especially true for the extremely lucky Blackie. Blackie was the only Cursomancer on the entire team. Among the 9 pieces of mysterious iron equipment, there were 2 pieces of the Death Word set equipment meant for Cursomancers. The Death Word set equipment was at the apex of all level 5 set equipment for Cursomancers. Just the effect of having 2 set pieces increased Blackie's Dark Arrow by 1 level. In addition, Blackie's Dark Arrow was already level 4. At level 5, the Dark Arrow's damage increased by a large leap. Meanwhile, Cola managed to win a mysterious iron shield by rolling. After equipping the shield, his defense surpassed the shield warrior from Ouroboros, Ghost Chop, by quite a lot. Although many items dropped, Shi Feng incessantly shook his head at these items. None of these items attracted his attention. "Why don't you want this piece of bronze equipment for swordsman?" Gentle Snow asked, astonished. With just a glance at Shi Feng's equipment, anybody could tell it was just individual bronze equipment assembled together. According to logic, their attributes should be much weaker than the equipment dropped from the hell mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. However, Shi Feng remained indifferent towards the equipment dropped. "The attributes of this equipment isn't as good as what I'm currently using. Just give it to your guild swordsman." Shi Feng carelessly gave the equipment to Gentle Snow. Naturally, he would not mention that he already possessed a set of Silvermoon set equipment, which was the best set equipment for swordsmen under level 10. After hearing Shi Feng, the other swordsman in the team repeatedly expressed his gratitude towards him. Even if Shi Feng were to take away the equipment for swordsmen, nobody on the team would complain. On the contrary, they would feel it was only natural that he would do so. No matter what anybody said, it was all due to Shi Feng's efforts that they were able to obtain so much equipment. However, Shi Feng displayed himself to be extremely impartial, causing the members of Ouroboros further admiration. Their gazes when they looked at Shi Feng held even more reverence now. Shi Feng stayed unmoved while faced with top-tier equipment. In the virtual gaming world, not many people would be capable of remaining as impartial when leading a temporary team. Noticing everyone had mostly recovered, Shi Feng said inside the team chat, Everyone, prepare yourselves. We will be going to the next strategic point. Those without speed scrolls, come get them from me." The members of Ouroboros were troubled when they heard this. Each of them had only carried 2 speed scrolls and both had already been used. However, they felt extremely awkward asking for speed scrolls from Shi Feng. After all, they previously made a mockery of Shi Feng. It would practically be a slap to their own faces if they asked Shi Feng for the expensive speed scrolls now. However, if they remained stubborn, they would only embarrass themselves when they died later on. "Can I buy some speed scrolls from you? I didn't have them prepare enough speed scrolls previously. We would feel extremely ashamed if you were to just give them to us for free." Gentle Snow naturally knew of her teammates' embarrassment. Without having a better option, she chose to take the initiative. "All right." Since Gentle Snow already asked, Shi Feng would not refuse. After all, his money didn't grow on trees, either. Fortunately, Shi Feng was prepared for such a situation, purchasing plenty of speed scrolls. He provided each team member of Ouroboros with 3 speed scrolls. However, when the members of Ouroboros were trading the speed scrolls with Shi Feng, they all had their heads lowered in embarrassment. They felt deeply ashamed in their hearts. Some of them also thanked Shi Feng directly, leaving Shi Feng at a loss. "Dirty bastard. This lady is a magnanimous person. Seeing that you've performed well, I've decided to forgive you. Give me the scroll then." Zhao Yueru walked towards Shi Feng, her head raised and her arms hugging her bosom. The crimson-red robe she wore revealed a deep cleavage, and a bashful tinge of red appeared on her delicate face as she spoke. Shi Feng naturally understood that it was a difficult feat for the incomparably prideful flame witch from his previous life to carry out such an action. If other players were to see her behaving as such right now, most likely, their jaws would have fallen to the ground from shock by now. Not only was Zhao Yueru currently displaying frailty, but she also apologized to Shi Feng. Even Xiao Yuer was pinching her own tender, pink cheeks, thinking she was hallucinating. Shi Feng only revealed a smile at Zhao Yueru's display as he traded the speed scrolls to her. However, inwardly, he was baffled. Was the sun rising from the west? He did not think that Zhao Yueru had such a side to her. If other men were to see this, their bones might turn to mush. Shi Feng did not think that his unintentional action would actually allow him to witness such a scene. A pity he did not record the moment. On the other side, just as Shi Feng and the others busied themselves in the Dark Moon Graveyard, the other guilds were still exploring the maze. They died over and over. Such a situation caused many guilds to give up their conquest of the Dark Moon Graveyard. If they continued this act of suicide, they might not properly recover their horrifying experience loss. However, there were still some of the stronger guilds who continued their exploration, conquering the Dark Moon Graveyard bit by bit. 3 hours after the Dark Moon Graveyard opened, there was still not a single guild that managed to clear the dungeon. After frantically trying to conquer the dungeon, the Assassin's Alliance, Heaven's Crown, and other raided guilds started to cool their actions. They started to calmly analyze all the information they obtained from the dungeon. Meanwhile, the team Shi Feng led had already killed their way towards an underground mausoleum, preparing to enter it. In order to arrive at this mausoleum, Shi Feng had led the team through 2 more similar massacres, obtaining more than 40 pieces of equipment and various materials. Everyone in the team greatly improved as a result. The 2 MTs in the team also surpassed the 400 defense threshold. Now, even when faced against the kobold zombies' claw attacks, they could resist 2 hits head-on. This underground mausoleum was situated in the central region of the wasteland. It was also the Dark Moon Graveyard's sole exit. In order to avoid suspicion, Shi Feng intentionally took several detours. Just as Shi Feng and the others were about to enter, Gentle Snow looked towards the serene and distant mausoleum, suddenly saying, "There are no monsters in the surroundings. This place may very well be the exit of the Dark Moon Graveyard.
We should let the assassins scout ahead first.
That way, if there are traps ahead, we won't risk a team wipe.
All right. Although Shi Feng knew there were no traps, he couldn't actually reveal that. So, he could only agree to Gentle Snow's suggestion. Following which, one of the assassins snuck into the mausoleum.
After more than 10 minutes passed, the assassin reported that there were no dangers ahead. The assassin also discovered a teleportation circle inside a large hall. However, there was a gigantic monster standing guard in the middle of the teleportation circle.
The assassin did not close in on the monster for fear of being discovered. Moreover, the room was dimly lit, so the assassin could not clearly see the information of the monster within. Let's go take a look then, Shi Feng said as he entered the mausoleum. Although the assassin did not know what kind of monster was inside, Shi Feng certainly knew. The monster guarding the teleportation circle was the final boss of the Dark Moon Graveyard. It used to be the king of kobolds, the kobold king Patch Leo. The moment everyone entered the large hall, the dimly lit hall suddenly changed.
The extinguished candles around the room flared to life, emitting a dark green flame and illuminating the entire hall.
Meanwhile, a figure over 3 meters tall stood in the center of the hall.
The figure was a ferocious kobold, its body covered in blue-colored armor and its hands wielding a pitch-black greatsword decorated with runes. The kobold silently stood on the magic circle, not even moving a muscle as its entire body radiated a frightening pressure. Everyone used observation skills, one after another, wanting to understand this monster. However, after seeing its information, everyone's complexion turned pale. They felt a deep terror as they gazed at this creature, and even Gentle Snow sucked in a cold breath.
None of them had any confidence in killing this monster. Chapter 104.
Everyone stood silently within the bright mausoleum hall, turning the place eerily quiet. After some time had passed. "Brother Feng, what do we do now? This boss is just too terrifying.
It is impossible for us to kill it."
Blackie looked towards Shi Feng, asking.
On the other side, Zhao Yueru said helplessly, "Snow, it seems we won't be able to clear the dungeon after all." The other team members also indicated their agreement.
There could be no greater folly than to attempt something they already knew to be impossible.
Are we just going to give up like this?
Gentle Snow's slender eyelashes trembled slightly, her crystal-clear eyes shifting towards the Kobold King's figure once more. They had reached this point after much difficulty.
Were they just going to give up like this? Kobold King Patch Leo, Lord Rank. Level 6. HP 120,120,000.
Not mentioning its frightening amount of HP, just the mere words, Lord Rank, were enough to cause players to tremble. That meant that there was a single aspect to this monster that was extremely terrifying, either in terms of speed, strength, or magic. Based solely on the terrifying aura radiating off of the Kobold King's body, its bulging, iron-like muscles, the pitch-black greatsword as tall as a man, which pierced deeply into the ground.
Even without having any exchanges with this Kobold King, everyone knew there was no way to overpower it.
Why don't we give it a try first?
Ghost Chop, try out the boss's capabilities. The others will leave the hall first, Gentle Snow said after giving it some thought.
Gentle Snow still intended to give the boss a try.
She was hoping to look for a strategy to kill it. Let's leave first then, Shi Feng said as well.
Gentle Snow's thoughts were exactly the same as his. He would let the MT try out the boss, then let the team watch. That way, he would have an appropriate excuse when he revealed his strategy. Following this, the shield warrior, Ghost Chop, activated his video recording, charging towards the Kobold King alone.
Meanwhile, the thick and heavy stone doors leading into the hall started closing.
Just as Ghost Chop was midway through his charge, the Kobold King abruptly opened its eyes.
Kachek.
The Kobold King casually pulled out the pitch-black sword from the ground. Its robust legs abruptly exploded with power as it similarly charged at Ghost Chop. Like a fierce gale, the Kobold King swept towards Ghost Chop.
Ghost Chop's body was frightened stiff. He rapidly reacted by raising his shield, blocking it in front of his chest. In the blink of an eye, a black ray, which carried with it an explosive sound, struck on the shield. Hong!
Ghost Chop's entire person was sent flying, and a damage of 633 points appeared above his head. His entire arm felt numb from the attack. If he had not used his shield to block, he might have been killed instantly. Ghost Chop felt that his own techniques were quite good, and he was an elite member of Ouroboros.
Moreover, his task right now wasn't even to kill off the boss.
If he could not even force the boss to reveal its hidden cards, then he would be an absolute disgrace.
Ghost Chop abruptly stood up.
He poured a bottle of basic regeneration potion down his throat, his HP recovering to more than half of its total. Just as he was considering attempting another bout with the boss, he suddenly discovered that the boss was already standing behind him, its greatsword raised up high.
Abruptly, the Kobold King slashed the greatsword at Ghost Chop. Shield wall. Ghost Chop no longer had the option to dodge the attack. He could only use his life-saving skill to take the attack at full force. When used, Shield Wall would reduce the damage the user received by half for a duration of 12 seconds. The black runic greatsword struck down once more. Although Ghost Chop had used his shield to block the attack again, he was instantly forced into a kneeling position by the resulting pressure. The stone bricks beneath his feet cracked apart like a spider's web, and his HP instantly fell by 426 points, leaving him with only a thread of life remaining. The Kobold King then kicked towards the side of Ghost Chop's abdomen. Ghost Chop helplessly imprinted himself onto a wall, and his HP instantly dropped down to 0. Only 3 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. Just like that, an MT that was equipped with top-tier equipment was dead. So much so that, even before the stone doors had closed shut, they had opened once more. Everyone looked at Ghost Chop, who was planted into a wall, shocked. What was this situation? The door had just closed before opening again, and their MT was already dead. "Yuer, revive Ghost Chop," Gentle Snow said with a gloomy expression.
Ghost Chop being killed so quickly was a clear indicator of how strong this boss was. After Ghost Chop was revived, a somber expression hung on his face. He unwillingly shared with everyone the recording he made, allowing them all to analyze the boss's strength. Strong. Zhao Yueru could not help but say in shock, this general speed and reaction speed, this strength, and also the constantly varying attack patterns. Is this really an NPC? Are we sure this isn't a martial arts expert in disguise? Before even witnessing the boss in battle, everyone could already feel how powerful it was. Now that they witnessed this for themselves, aside from feeling shocked, they were also astounded. With Ghost Chop's skills, he was actually unable to even damage the boss. This was just too horrifying. Even if it was the strongest chieftain-ranked monster Gentle Snow met before, in comparison to this Kobold King, it would only be a little rabbit. As for Shi Feng's party, whom had battled with a Lord rank boss before, after looking at the recording, even they were feeling apprehensive. As expected of a Lord rank boss in a team dungeon, compared to the Lord rank boss of a party dungeon, it was at least several times stronger. Not only was its speed and strength a problem, but its attack patterns were even more so. There were just too many variations. It was as if they were fighting in a close-quartered combat against an expert. Moreover, the physical attributes of this expert were better than theirs by several fold. Just how were they supposed to continue battling against this boss? Even if their brother Feng was very powerful, he might not be able to last long against this boss. After all, this boss had a HP of 120,000 and their HP did not even reach 1,000. Let's withdraw. After considering for a good while and thinking up of all sorts of simulations, Gentle Snow still came to the conclusion that they would be team-wiped. She was not prepared to waste time here, and rather prepared to raid the normal mode of the Dark Moon Graveyard. The boss in the normal mode should be a chieftain rank boss, which should be much weaker.
According to their current equipment, they would at least have a 20 to 30% chance of killing the boss.
Everyone else could only give up after hearing Gentle Snow say this, so all of them took out return scrolls. At this moment, Shi Feng suddenly said in the team chat, after looking at the Kobold King's attack patterns, "If Miss Snow, the two MTs, and myself were to implement a rotation battle, we should have somewhat of a chance at succeeding. I wonder if Miss Snow still wishes to raid this boss?"
Although Shi Feng's voice was soft, it was as if a light in the darkness appeared, brightening everyone's spirits.
"Brother Feng, are we really going to fight it?"
Blackie looked at the Kobold King, swallowing down a mouthful of saliva.
Even at such a distance away from it, Blackie could still feel his legs trembling.
If he were to close in on it a little more, he might already be on the ground, kneeling. In fact, it wasn't just Blackie who was impacted by the Kobold King's imposing aura. The other team members did not fare any better than Blackie.
They instinctively acknowledged that they could not beat it, wanting to run away from it. "You have a plan?"
Shock flashed past Zhao Yuru's eyes as she looked at Shi Feng, asking. This was a lord inside a team dungeon. Its HP was several times higher than the lords in the wild.
Its attack power and attack patterns, as well, were despairingly powerful. Zhao Yueru did not think that Shi Feng would have a method to raid it. Shi Feng shrugged his shoulders, looking at the Kobold King as he said, "My confidence at succeeding isn't high.
However, we can still give it a try. Isn't it just a 10% experience loss? Killing all the way here, the experience we obtained has far exceeded just 10%. Even if we died, we have already obtained a lot of equipment."
"Don't tell me that you guys are so willing to just give up?"
Gentle Snow was slightly shocked. She did not think that Shi Feng could bring her so many surprises. Even if they could not raid the boss this time, she would definitely pull Shi Feng into Ouroboros. "What are the chances for success?"
Gentle Snow asked, her iceberg-like expression finally revealing a warm smile.
20%. Shi Feng had already made the most conservative estimation.
In reality, he had estimated their success rate to be at 50%. However, he was worried that if he were to say it out loud it would be bad. He might attract suspicion. "What? You said 20%?
Zhao Yueru rolled her eyes at Shi Feng.
With such a low success rate, who would dare take the challenge?
"Alright, let's hear your plan then."
"We will be supporting you fully," Gentle Snow interrupted Zhao Yueru, saying softly. Gentle Snow herself had estimated their chances at getting rid of the Lord rank boss at 0%. As for a chieftain rank boss, she had estimated the success rate to be at 20 to 30% chance. Judging from Shi Feng's previous behavior, he did not seem like a person that exaggerated things. Since Shi Feng had a similar certainty for success, wouldn't killing the Lord rank boss be much better?
Moreover, she was extremely interested in the four-man rotation battle Shi Feng had mentioned.
She did not know what kind of method of battle this was to actually let them have such a high chance of success against the Lord rank Kobold King.
Chapter 105. Although the members of Ouroboros admired Shi Feng, they still felt that it was impossible for them to raid this boss. What would happen if they were wiped out?
However, Gentle Snow had already nodded her head in agreement. That meant she was also willing to take on this risk.
Even if everyone were to lose 10% of their experience and some skill proficiency, losing to the other guilds in terms of levels by a little, she would shoulder all the responsibility. Although 10% of experience seemed like a small amount when a player had reached level 6, raising their experience by 10% would require at least 2 to 3 hours worth of effort. If the team was wiped out as a result of Gentle Snow's decision, the losses the team suffered would not be small. It was obvious just how much trust she placed in Shi Feng. The members of Ouroboros looked at each other, feeling that they were all too timid. After playing virtual reality games for so long, they had all turned towards stability. They thought that, in order to raise their standings in the guild, the less deaths they had, the better.
Yet, unknowingly, they had forgotten one of the most important points when playing a virtual reality game:
the thrill of adventure. That was the reason why most people played virtual reality games.
They had already gained a bountiful harvest from the dungeon. Just like what Shi Feng had said, it wouldn't really matter, even if they died.
Leader, we'll do as you say then. Whatever you want me to do, I guarantee that I'll do it.
The shield warrior, Ghost Chop, looked towards Shi Feng, clapping his chest as he said so.
Leader, say it. Right, say it. The members of Ouroboros all looked towards Shi Feng. They had thought it through already. If they were going to make a loss, so be it.
However, on the off chance that they did succeed, endless glory would await them. Since everyone has agreed, I'll tell you my strategy. After we start the raid, only me, Miss Snow, and the two MTs will battle with the Kobold King. The other melee jobs are to all stay at a distance.
Berserkers, listen to my command to use charge.
Assassins, after giving the boss a bleeding effect, immediately distance yourselves and use bows to attack. The other ranged jobs should just dish out as much damage as you can. However, pay attention to maintain a distance of 25 yards or above from the boss. The two clerics and druids should focus on healing the MTs, while the oracles will heal Miss Snow and I. Shi Feng started explaining his strategy, giving Gentle Snow and the others detailed explanation on the method of rotation battle. The rotation battle method was a technique that allowed the weak to win against the strong. It was a technique specifically meant for dealing with bosses. In Shi Feng's previous life, this method of battle was gradually discovered by some experts a month after God's Domain's opening. These experts then carried out the technique in an actual battle against the boss of a dungeon. Unexpectedly, the technique yielded remarkable results. Bosses, which they were previously helpless against, were easily gotten rid of with this technique. Following which, this technique slowly spread out, and within 2 months' time, almost every guild's elite team members had learned the technique. Right now, if they wished to raid this Lord-ranked Kobold King, then they would need to utilize this method of battle. Otherwise, for as many battles as they carried out, they would die an equal amount of deaths. There would be no exceptions. After Shi Feng's explanation ended, everyone entered into the large hall of the mausoleum. The Kobold King, equipped with blue-colored armor, still stood silently in the middle of the hall. Kola, start the raid. Pay attention to your positioning and set aside the Kobold King for the ranged players. After which, you and I will cooperate to hold off the boss. When we are both unable to hold it off any longer, Ghost Chop will be responsible for relaying the boss over and cooperate with Miss Snow to hold it off. After we have stabilized the boss's aggro, all ranged players can start dealing damage. Shi Feng unsheathed his pair of swords, giving out instructions one after the other in a methodical manner. Leave it to me. Kola appeared slightly panicked. However, after having gone through Shi Feng's guidance for a period of time, he gradually began displaying the potential of an apex expert. After everyone was in position, Kola immediately rushed at the Kobold King with his bear-like robust body. However, before he had even covered half the distance, and having yet to alert the Kobold King, he used Divine Shield Strike. Kola's shield flew out, transforming into a shooting star as it shot towards the Kobold King. Just as the flying shield was about to hit the Kobold King abruptly opened its eyes, revealing 2 blood-red orbs. Its mouth opened wide, exposing a sinister, cold smile. With a single draw of its greatsword, the Kobold King sent the shield flying away. The shield did not cause even a single point of damage. Before anybody could be shocked by the Kobold King's skill, the Kobold King had taken a large stride forward. It reached Kola in the blink of an eye, its greatsword striking downwards. With the arm that was holding onto the shield, Kola blocked against the attack from the greatsword, receiving more than 400 damage. Meanwhile, Kola's other hand abruptly tightened its grip around the dagger, and with a yell, he slashed out the dagger, striking at the side of the pitch-black greatsword. _Pung. The sword brandished by the Kobold King, due to the offset produced from Kola's dagger, had slid off along his shield and pierced into the ground, causing a halt to the Kobold King's battle rhythm.
Beautifully done. Shi Feng appeared behind Kola at this moment.
Shi Feng brandished the crimson blade, striking at the Kobold King's greatsword once more, causing the greatsword to sink deeper into the ground. At the same time, Shi Feng cast Chop, using the abyssal blade. The sword transformed into a black ray as it pierced at the Kobold King's neck. This time, they finally caused damage to the Kobold King, with a damage of 193 points appearing above its head. Before Shi Feng could retrieve his swords, the Kobold King had released its grip on its greatsword, sending a punch towards Shi Feng.
Switch! Shi Feng yelled.
Ghost Chop had long since been waiting at the side. Immediately he sent a slash at the Kobold King's arm. As a result of the impact, he was sent retreating 2 steps backward by the Kobold King's fist with a damage of over 200 points appearing above his head. However, the Kobold King was also forced back, its body nearly losing its balance. Gentle Snow rushed up at this time, her Flame Spirit greatsword transforming into a sword of fire as she used Flame Slash on a gap in the Kobold King's armor, dealing 132 damage to it. Soon after, the Kobold King finally managed to stabilize its body. It brandished its greatsword in a fit of rage, casting a horizontal slash. However, Kola was a step ahead of it as he forcefully received this horizontal slash. As a result, no one else received a single point of damage from the Kobold King's attack. Kola himself, however, received 560 damage. Fortunately, there were 3 healers healing him at the same time, bringing his HP from a critical state back up to more than half. Subsequently, Shi Feng and Gentle Snow continuously overlapped their attacks with each other, while Kola and Ghost Chop kept on receiving the damage, and the healers healed them without stopping. In such a way, the team slowly reduced the Kobold King's HP. After coordinating their attacks for several rounds, Gentle Snow was extremely astonished. She did not think there was such a way to fight against a boss. She really did not know just how Shi Feng had managed to think up such a technique. However, what shocked everyone even more was the damage caused by Shi Feng. The damage he caused left everyone practically dumbstruck. A single thundering flash was able to cause almost 700 total damage. Earth Splitter caused over 400 damage, while his normal attacks each caused over 100 damage. Compared to that, Gentle Snow, who was equipped with a suit of mysterious iron set equipment and a secret silver greatsword, had only managed to deal around 240 damage, even after using her most powerful skill. Seeing such a scene, everyone began to wonder, between Shi Feng and Gentle Snow, just who was actually the berserker here. However, no one knew that Shi Feng wielded a magic weapon in his hands. In addition to the Silvermoon set equipment and his damaging skills, which were at level 4 to level 5, the damage he could cause would naturally be exaggerated. Ranged players can start attacking now, Shi Feng shouted in the team's chat after feeling that the boss's hatred had been completely stabilized. At this time, the others were woken up with a start. The mages started reading out incantations, sending out fireballs and dark arrows. Meanwhile, the rangers continuously fired off arrows from their bows, causing a series of damage to the Kobold King. Amongst all these attacks, Zhao Yueru was the person who dealt the highest damage in a single attack, which was over 100 damage. Following her, Blackie could also deal over 80 damage with each of his dark arrows, while the others only dealt 40 to 50 damage. Under Shi Feng's instructions and the constant combination attacks, the Kobold King became helpless. The Kobold King was forced to retreat, step after step, until its HP continuously decreased without pausing. From start to finish, it was constantly forced into a passive state, unable to display its true potential.
After being continuously attacked for over 10 minutes, the Kobold King's HP had been reduced down to 30%.
Reaching the boundary of entering a berserk state, the Kobold King's body started increasing its size, and its muscles inflated. After it goes berserk, we won't be able to hold on for long.
Ranged players stop all your attacks, and MTs prepare to activate your life-saving skills to escape. Remember to pull the boss's aggro before running.
Everyone else should distance yourselves from the boss.
The other warriors, wait for my command to use charge.
Mages who have restriction skills should all get ready. Seeing that the Kobold King was starting to go berserk, Shi Feng loudly reminded. Immediately, he too distanced himself from the Kobold King. A Lord rank boss berserk was no small matter. If it was not properly dealt with, then the result would be a team wipe. Now, their chances of successfully killing the Kobold King depended on whether the two MTs were able to survive.
Chapter 106. Oh! 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 The Kobold King let out an angry roar. Multiple shockwaves rolled out and struck the team, causing 60 to 70 damage to everyone with each consecutive wave. Moreover, the mages in the team were constantly forced to retreat backward by each shockwave, having no choice but to lean against a wall. Lowly ants! You dare taint this sacred ground with your presence? Receive the punishment of death. The Kobold King's enlarged foot abruptly stomped down, causing the stone ground in a 5-yard radius to crack, and sending debris flying into the air. After seeing this destructive power, the two MTs could not help but have a cold sweat seep down their backs. Fortunately, they had retreated a step earlier. Otherwise, the consequences of receiving that stomp would have been unimaginable. Just as the both of them were still celebrating, the Kobold King tightly gripped onto its greatsword with both its hands. Without warning, it abruptly slashed the greatsword at the two MTs from a distance. A black streak of sword aura sliced through the air, striking across the bodies of the two players, and causing more than 600 damage to each of them. A sword aura area attack? Gentle Snow wrinkled her brows. She did not think that, after the Kobold King's HP decreased to 30%, it would actually switch to attacking from a range. Moreover, the damage it dealt was still so high that even after both MTs had activated their life-saving skills, reducing the damage they took by 50%. The difficulty of raiding the Kobold King had suddenly increased by many folds. If the chieftain-rank Kobold King could carry out a similar feat, then it would be quite fortunate if her previous estimates could have even a 10% success rate. All healers heal the two MTs. The other ranged players, distance yourselves from the two MTs. MTs, pay attention to your positioning. Absolutely do not let yourselves come into range of the boss. The other warriors, prepare to use charge to restrict the boss, Shi Feng immediately commanded. Before Shi Feng could finish his words, the Kobold King took action. It stepped out from the debris and abruptly rushed towards the Guardian Knight, Kola, who first held its aggro. The Kobold King reached Kola in an instant. The Kobold King swung down its raised sword, the sword bringing along a fierce gale as it descended. Meanwhile, Kola, who had suffered over 600 damage from the previous attack, did not possess even half of his total HP. If he received this attack right now, he would die with 100% certainty. Following the descent of the greatsword, a loud boom resounded, and a fierce gale enveloped the entire hall. Why am I still alive? Kola peeped open his eyes and discovered that his surroundings had not turned pitch black. Instead, he saw a familiar back standing in front of him. He immediately shouted in surprise, "Brother Feng! Run, quickly!" Although Shi Feng had parried the attack with both his swords, the Kobold King was already prepared to swing out its sword a second time. Unable to use parry any longer, Shi Feng was left with no choice but to use out one of his life-saving skills, Defensive Blade. Kola dared not stay any longer, hurriedly running away.
Meanwhile, the healing spells from the 4 healers only now landed upon Cola's body, recovering him back to his full HP. After running away for about 2 yards, Cola turned his head to the sound of stone bricks exploding in his ears and saw clouds of dust rising into the air. Following which, Shi Feng ran out from the dust cloud, not daring to stay even half a second longer. After all, the Berserk Kobold King possessed the capability of instant killing him. Just after Shi Feng ran out of the dust cloud, the Kobold King was already hot on his heels. However, its target was not Shi Feng, but the escaping Cola.
Use charge to block it.
Shi Feng naturally would not let the Kobold King have its way. Immediately after Shi Feng commanded, the 3 spectating berserkers started using charge in succession. The first charge only caused the Kobold King to pause slightly. Following it, the second charge caused it to retreat by a single step, while the third charge made it retreat by 2 steps. Although the Kobold King did not enter a fainted state, it was sufficient just by having the knockback effect. After they finished using charge, the berserkers immediately got out of the way. However, one of them was a tad bit slower, and the sword aura coming from the Kobold King's horizontal slash brushed past him. Instantly, the berserker's HP fell down to 0, his body falling flat on the ground. The shorter the distance, the greater the damage the Kobold King's sword aura attack caused. Within a distance of just 2 to 3 yards, a single strike could instant kill a full HP MT, not to mention a berserker whose HP was inferior to an MT's. However, the berserker's death was still a worthwhile sacrifice. At the very least, the felled berserker had managed to earn the team some time, allowing the 2 MTs to have a better chance of survival. The mages had also started using restriction skills to restrict the boss, allowing the 2 MTs to be more scared than hurt. 1. Amongst the skills that best restricted the Kobold King was Blackie's Evil Whip. The Kobold King had wasted quite some time in order to escape from those thorns. The Frozen Nova from the other mages had all failed to induce a frozen effect on the Kobold King. The mages had also used it to reduce the Kobold King's speed, though the effects were minimal. Time passed bit by bit. Although Cola and Ghost Chop were chased all over the place by the Kobold King, fortunately, both of them were still able to stay alive. Finally, the Kobold King's berserk ended, returning it to its original state. However, its HP recovery speed had increased considerably when it went berserk. Its current HP was restored by more than 50%, which was over 60,000 HP. Attack it in rotation. After the Kobold King's berserk had ended, Shi Feng naturally would not give the boss any leeway, immediately starting their retaliation. With the 4 of them attacking in rotation, the Kobold King was once more placed in a disadvantageous position. Furthermore, the 4 of them were becoming more practiced with carrying out joint attacks. After a few minutes, the Kobold King's HP had fallen to 20%. This time, the Kobold King did not go berserk. Instead, it abandoned its greatsword, pulling out 2 blood-red, one-handed longswords that had runes carved into them. It then began madly brandishing its swords. The Kobold King transformed into a tornado that engulfed everything, and anything that came into contact with its blades turned to ashes. This move was one of the Kobold King's ultimate, Blade Storm. All berserkers use charge, then immediately retreat. Mages, use all of your restricting skills, and pay attention to avoid the tornado. Stay at least 10 yards from it. Shi Feng immediately shouted. After battling up to this point, everyone in the team had become extremely trusting of Shi Feng. Without hesitation, the berserkers immediately used charge. All the warriors, including Gentle Snow, rushed up to the Kobold King, ramming their bodies at the Kobold King. The mages all used Ice Sphere, while Blackie used Evil Whip. The 7 thorn vines bound both legs of the Kobold King, immediately reducing the Kobold King's speed greatly. The power of its rotation was also significantly weakened. Although the speed of the Kobold King's Blade Storm had slowed down a lot,
and its might reduced slightly, there were still a few players engulfed by it, turning into meat paste in less than 2 seconds.
Within the blade storm's duration of 15 seconds, out of the 20 players within the team, 6 had already died. Amongst them, there were 2 berserkers, 1 assassin, 1 cleric, 1 ranger, and 1 swordsman.
Meanwhile, the Kobold King still had 10% of its total HP.
Seeing that the 2 MTs had their HP hanging by a thread, the Kobold King followed up by slashing its 2 swords at both their necks. Just as the 2 MTs were about to meet their makers, Shi Feng appeared behind the Kobold King.
Abyssal Bind. Thundering Flash. Double Chop. 9 pitch-black chains bound the Kobold King, preventing it from moving even a single step.
After saving the 2 MTs, Shi Feng followed up with a series of slashes on the Kobold King's weak point. The speed at which he drew his swords was frighteningly fast. Gentle Snow could not help but be shocked at Shi Feng's sword-drawing speed and accuracy. However, she did not halt her actions as she continued slashing at the Kobold King with her greatsword. Within a short 3 seconds, everyone had taken away close to 4,000 HP from the Kobold King, plunging its HP down to a critical point.
Oh! The Kobold King was truly enraged now. Following its roar, the entire hall started trembling.
This was the Kobold King's final ultimate, Death's Intimidation. The skill causes all enemies in a radius of 50 yards to fall into fear, unable to attack for a duration of 10 seconds. Suddenly, everyone had fallen into fear, blankly standing still and unable to move. At this sight, the Kobold King revealed a sneer that resembled a human's. It brandished its twin swords as it began a massacre.
Within an instant, it had taken the lives of a berserker and assassin. Striking out, sword after sword, the 2 MTs were killed off as well. Meanwhile, not even 4 seconds had passed since the Kobold King had used Death's Intimidation.
If the Kobold King was allowed to continue having its way, everyone would be dead when the 10 seconds were up. After half of the entire team was dead, Shi Feng became the Kobold King's target.
Shi Feng was finally able to move.
Previously, he had activated his extraordinary physique, too. His resistance to fear became higher than the average player. So, the effective duration of the fear induced was also reduced by quite a lot. However, the Kobold King's sword was already descending.
Unable to avoid it, Shi Feng bellowed as he activated Life Shield.
At the most critical moment, just as the Kobold King's greatsword was about to land on Shi Feng, the Abyssal Blade had managed to block off this attack. Following which, Shi Feng's entire person was sent flying from it, with a damage of over 640 points appearing above his head.
Fortunately, Shi Feng had over 1000 HP right now. In addition to the life shield absorbing some of the damage he took, he had managed to survive the Kobold King's attack. However, the life shield was also destroyed by this attack. Seeing that Shi Feng did not die, the Kobold King became flabbergasted. It then rushed towards Shi Feng, wanting to give him the final blow. Phantom Kill. 9 Dragon Slash. Shi Feng's doppelganger used parry to block against the Kobold King's attack. Simultaneously, the doppelganger activated Defensive Blade and was able to delay the Kobold King for quite some time. Meanwhile, the Kobold King was receiving continuous attacks from the 9 abyssal blades. Its HP steadily fell, leaving it with only 1% remaining.
Seeing that the cooldown for his own defensive blade was finished, Shi Feng as well activated the skill.
From a distance of 10 yards, Shi Feng started attacking the Kobold King with sword auras.
Damages of over 100 points kept on appearing above the Kobold King's head, taking its HP away bit by bit. After the Kobold King had managed to get rid of the doppelganger, its remaining HP did not even reach 300 points.
Suddenly, it threw out both of its swords, sending them piercing towards Shi Feng. Unfortunately, both swords were blocked off by Shi Feng's defensive blade.
However, the Kobold King had yet to give up. It turned into a streak of shadow, appearing in front of Shi Feng in the blink of an eye and sending a slap at Shi Feng with its claws.
At this moment, Shi Feng's thundering flash had finished its cooldown. Blocking the sharp claws with the crimson blade, Shi Feng slashed at the Kobold King's neck with the abyssal blade, the blade turning into a streak of lightning as it struck at its target. Pung! Shi Feng was blasted towards a wall, with only a thread of his HP remaining. On the other hand, the Kobold King lay on the floor, motionless.
Shi Feng had also abruptly risen by a level, reaching level 7.
A large pile of items dropped. Amongst these items, there was one that was unusually dazzling.
The item released a demonic silver glow, bringing a chill to those who laid their eyes on it.
Ash Blade.
Shi Feng was shocked after seeing this item.
This thing was the legendary item of Dark Moon Graveyard.
In Shi Feng's previous life, he had only heard rumors of it, and never actually saw it before. 1. To be more scared than hurt. Yu Jing Wu Xian. A Chinese idiom referring to something seemingly frightening, scary, soul-stirring, yet carries no danger. Right arrow curving left.
2. Extraordinary physique. Mentioned in Chapter 29.
This is a state achievable when a player activates the hidden basic skills for agility, strength, intelligence, and endurance simultaneously. Right arrow curving left.
Chapter 107.
After the Kobold King's death, everyone's fear was similarly dispelled.
They all regained their freedom of movement.
However, at that moment, there were only 6 members alive in the entire team. When everyone looked at the corpse of the Kobold King laying on the floor, they all had expressions of shock on their faces.
Even Gentle Snow was baffled at this result. Logically speaking, they should not have been able to survive through the fear state.
So, just how did the Kobold King die? However, when she looked at Shi Feng standing beside the Kobold King's corpse, and furthermore, at the scant amount of HP he had remaining, realization struck Gentle Snow. Needless to say, Shi Feng was definitely the one who had killed the Kobold King. The others were shocked into speechlessness. In such a situation, just what method did Shi Feng use that enabled him to kill the Kobold King? Brother Feng, you are too awesome.
You killed the boss, even under such a situation. You are literally my idol right now.
Blackie excitedly said as he looked at Shi Feng with worshipful eyes.
The first clear of the hell mode of Dark Moon Valley. This was definitely a moment for excitement.
This signified that they would be leaving their names on the glory list for all eternity. In the future, as long as there were players wanting to enter the Dark Moon Graveyard, their names would be on display for these players to behold and revere. At that time, they would become famous even if they didn't want to be. Alright, quickly revive the others. Shi Feng, who was currently sitting on the ground, did not become too excited. He only pointed towards the members that had died. It was not nice to let them continue laying on the ground. At Shi Feng's comment, Gentle Snow finally managed to recover from her shock.
She looked towards the only surviving healer, Xiao Yuer, and said, Yuer, quickly revive them.
Xiao Yuer nodded her head, starting to cast revival.
Several minutes later, all the team members were finally resurrected.
After Zhao Yueru was revived, she vacantly asked, Yuer, was the team wiped out?
Nope. We cleared it, Xiao Yuer faintly smiled. Ah! As expected, it was still a team wipe.
Zhao Yueru shook her head, inwardly lamenting. If everyone present possessed a dispelling skill, then at the very least they would not end up being completely wiped out. To bear witness to a low HP Kobold King obtaining victory in the end. Xiao Yuer could not help but let out a laugh.
If she did not personally witness the Kobold King dying, she too would not have believed it.
Hence, she loudly proclaimed, Sister Yueru, the boss is already dead. Impossible. None of us has a skill to dispel fear. Zhao Yueru said with confidence, even if we wait for the fear to end, the remaining members would not be able to get rid of the boss.
If you don't believe it, look over there.
The Kobold King was killed off by Big Brother Yi Feng in the end. You don't know just how dangerous of a situation Big Brother Yi Feng was in at the time.
He went all out in the last strike, intending to die together with the Kobold King.
In the end, he barely survived with only 16 HP remaining. Xuanhuan pointed towards the corpse of the Kobold King in the distance, admiration in her voice as she recounted Shi Feng's feats. Zhao Yueru turned her head around.
Sure enough, it was the corpse of the Kobold King.
Zhao Yueru tilted her head, her beautiful eyes sizing up Shi Feng's back.
She discovered that Shi Feng was truly a mysterious person.
The way he had commanded the team before was as if a veteran general of many years commanding his team.
Every line of command he gave out was extremely precise, and even the positioning of each member was clearly stated.
Just how was he an independent player?
Even a team leader of a guild who often went dungeon diving would not be able to replicate his feats.
Shi Feng was simply inconceivable. Now, Shi Feng had even landed the final strike that defeated the Kobold King, his strength powerful to the degree of leaving others speechless.
Observing capabilities, commanding capabilities, battle techniques. Shi Feng was practically standing at the peak in all these aspects. Shi Feng had broken every understanding she had of him. Truly an evil bastard.
Zhao Yueru lightly bit down on her lips, her heart filled with displeasure as she looked at Shi Feng.
She felt that Shi Feng was definitely toying with her.
She could not help but wish that she could give Shi Feng a few bites to relieve her anger. However, Zhao Yueru only had thoughts of doing so.
She would not truly carry out such an action. Only after everyone had gathered did Shi Feng begin to tidy up the loot from the Kobold King. Looking at loot, each and every one of the team members anxiously waited for Shi Feng to complete his task. These things were all items that only dropped from the boss of the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. Every one of them was completely priceless. I'm done arranging them. There are a total of 8 pieces of equipment and 6 other items. Amongst these are 2 pieces of secret silver weapons, a level 5 greatsword and a level 5 shield. There are also 2 independent pieces of secret silver equipment. One is for clerics, the other is for swordsmen. The remaining 4 pieces of equipment are all pieces of mysterious iron set equipment.
We will decide by rolling if more than one person needs the same piece of equipment. Shi Feng gave a general introduction of the items.
At the same time, he shared the information for everyone to observe. Runic sword, secret silver rank, 2-handed sword. Level 5. Equipment requirement, strength 30. Attack power plus 45. Strength plus 9, endurance plus 8. Attack speed plus 1. When attacking, there is a 10% chance to cause a heavy impact effect and 10% armor destruction effect. Runic shield, secret silver rank. Level 5. Equipment requirement, strength 23. Defense plus 69. Block rate, 35%. Strength plus 6, endurance plus 10.
Additional skill.
Tough shield. When activated, reduces the damage taken from the front by 30%. Duration of 10 seconds. Cooldown, 2 minutes. Ellipsis ellipsis. Everyone was stunned after seeing the attributes on these equipment pieces. Every piece of equipment was a top-tier item. Amongst them, the runic sword and runic shield were the absolute best. If they were to be sold right now, they would sell for 80 silver coins, at the very least. However, they definitely would not sell any of these items. With good equipment in hand, they would have an easier time leveling up later on. Only an idiot would be dumb enough to sell them. Following which, everyone on the team began madly rolling for points as they competed over the equipment. In the end, the runic sword fell into the hands of Gentle Snow, while the runic shield went to Kola. Shi Feng also obtained a secret silver pauldron, greatly increasing his attributes once more. Then next would be the other items. We will hold an internal auction for them. Highest bidder wins, Shi Feng said.
Hearing Shi Feng saying so, the members of Ouroboros felt slightly embarrassed.
They knew that the worth of the other items surpassed these pieces. It was especially true for that dazzling, broken blade called Ash Blade.
Just judging from the introduction of that item was enough to excite a person. Moreover, there was also a piece of advanced whetstone recipe and a few more rare materials. Every one of them was priceless. However, if it were not for Shi Feng, just how would they be able to even clear the hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard?
Furthermore, they had obtained so much top-tier equipment, greatly improving themselves.
Right now, they were already leading the other guilds by a large margin.
So, how could they not feel shame fighting over these items with Shi Feng?
Gentle Snow had naturally considered this point.
Moreover, she had wanted to pull Shi Feng into Ouroboros herself, so naturally she had to deepen her relationship with Shi Feng.
Hence, she looked towards Shi Feng, taking the initiative as she said, "We were only able to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard due to your great contribution.
We have already received enough, so the other items will all belong to you. I can't even begin to thank you enough."
The other members of Ouroboros all nodded their heads in quick succession.
Shi Feng was slightly astonished. He did not think that Gentle Snow would actually give up on the auction. Although, he also was not afraid of having an auction.
He had plenty of gold coins inside of his bag, enough to buy out both the advanced whetstone recipe and the ash blade. Since Gentle Snow did not wish to compete, he naturally would not refuse her offer.
He stowed all of the items into his bag. With the dungeon conquered and the loot distributed, Shi Feng walked towards a corner of the mausoleum. He then activated the mechanism to trigger the teleportation gate.
Everyone walked into the teleportation gate, disappearing from the large hall of the mausoleum one after another.
Just after everyone had left from the Dark Moon Graveyard.
White River City Region System announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 10 reputation points in White River City. Red Leaf Town Region System announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 30 reputation points in Red Leaf Town. System. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 1 mysterious treasure chest, 50,000 EXP, and 10 glory points. Chapter 108. Outside the Dark Moon Graveyard. This dungeon is just impossible. Without an average level of 10, who would be able to clear it? Flaming Tiger, who had just revived out of the dungeon, cursed. In all 3 times he had entered the Dark Moon Graveyard, not once had he even found the location of the dungeon's boss before his entire team dropped dead. This dungeon was just toying with them. Everywhere inside the dungeon was filled with elite monsters. Even if they killed some, there was still an endless stream of monsters to slowly grind them to death. It was absolutely frustrating. Zhang Luowei raised his thick brows, his complexion gloomy as he looked back toward the teleportation gate of the Dark Moon Graveyard in the distance. With such lack of progress, it had long since passed the point of just making a loss. If this situation continued, it would be detrimental to the team's future development. Everyone rest up for a while. We can't continue wasting our time here. I'm guessing that the progress of the other guilds isn't that good either. They should have died several times as well, already. Let's take this chance when the other guilds are focusing on the Dark Moon Graveyard to raid the level 5 party dungeon and lava cavern in separate groups. In any case, they won't be able to conquer this team dungeon. We can also use this time to increase our levels quickly, Zhang Luowei said, choosing to give up on the Dark Moon Graveyard. Although leaving their names on the glory list would be a quick way to raise the fame and influence of their guild, it was an entirely different matter if everyone was similarly unable to conquer the dungeon. The only other thing they could compete in were in terms of average level and equipment of the guild's elite members, and also, in terms of who could set foot into White River City the earliest.
In fact, it wasn't just the members of Shadow that were faced with such a situation. All the guilds in the entire White River City were currently trapped in this suffering known as team dungeons. Nobody had thought that the team dungeon's difficulty would be so high, leaving them utterly helpless. The virtual reality games in the past usually had less monsters than players inside of dungeons.
In God's domain, however, the number of monsters inside the dungeons greatly outnumbered that of the players.
It was a number that was simply impossible to cope with. Even if they increased the number of MTs and healers they brought with, it would still be a useless endeavor.
After some time had passed, the second-rate guild, Assassin's Alliance, had also died out from the dungeon with dejection covering their faces. "What's gotten into all of you?"
"It's just a few deaths."
"Don't forget, for each time we die, we will gain significant progress.
We will be able to clear the dungeon sooner or later, so stop feeling dejected. Right now, we should try to think up a method to get through the fog."
After some rest, "We will try to raid the dungeon one more time today," Stabbing Heart said inside the team chat. Being encouraged by Stabbing Heart like this, the team members regained quite a lot of their confidence. They all started voicing out their ideas and suggestions, intending to conquer the Dark Moon Graveyard at all costs. White River City Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 10 reputation points in White River City. Red Leaf Town Region System Announcement. Congratulations to Ouroboros for becoming the first team to conquer the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard. All players within the team will be rewarded with 30 reputation points in Red Leaf Town. Just as the various guilds were considering whether they should give up raiding the Dark Moon Graveyard, 2 consecutive system announcements immediately attracted the attention of every guild within White River City. Meanwhile, when the players of Red Leaf Town heard of this system announcement, they were first filled with shock, but they were soon cheering and shouting in worship.
Ouroboros is just too awesome.
They're practically inhuman.
I heard that the Snow Goddess was the one who led the dungeon raiding team.
My goddess is just too powerful. The other guilds haven't even cleared the normal mode, but the goddess has already cleared Hell mode.
This won't do. I want to join Ouroboros. I would be satisfied even if I could become the goddess servant. The players in Red Leaf Town had all started conversing about Ouroboros and the Snow Goddess. Aside from worship, they were also filled with awe.
Simultaneously, the entire region of White River City was sent into a cacophony of noise. What kind of joke is this? We can't even manage to find the boss of the normal mode. So just how did Ouroboros manage to even clear the Hell mode? The guild leader of Emerald Dragon Gate slammed on the desk as he cursed.
Could the team dungeon in Red Leaf Town possibly be easier?
Then Stabbing Heart should have, at the very least, cleared the normal mode already. The guild leader of the Assassin's Alliance entered deep thought after looking at the system announcement. While all the large guilds were still having headaches over obtaining a town region announcement for themselves, as if trying to take their lives, a city region announcement had appeared. The upper echelons of the various guilds suddenly felt an immense pressure weighing on them, pushing them to accelerate their raiding progress quickly. However, such a pressure did not come from the fact that the Snow Goddess had managed to clear the Hell mode of a team dungeon. Instead, it came from the fact that the influence of the system announcement was simply too huge. In merely a moment, the system announcement had placed Ouroboros at the summit of White River City. Players who were new to God's domain did not possess extensive knowledge about the strengths of the various guilds in existence. However, what they did know was that Ouroboros was definitely the best guild in White River City. They couldn't help but admit that the Snow Goddess' performance was just too dazzling. Compared to the guild leader of Ouroboros himself, who had a large number of experts under him in Star Moon City, the Snow Goddess was much more formidable. A short moment after the appearance of this system announcement, all the upper echelons of the guilds within Star Moon Kingdom discovered that they had underestimated the snow goddess' ability.
Fortunately, the snow goddess was not tasked around the area of Star Moon City.
Otherwise, the consequences for them would be unimaginable. Meanwhile, Gentle Snow herself remained unaware of what was currently happening in the various regions of God's domain.
She was still busy looking at the glory list together with Shi Feng and the others.
The glory list, which was made up of obsidian stone, was 3 meters in height and 2 meters in width.
On it, the names of Gentle Snow and the other team members were already carved. Moreover, their names were carved at an extraordinarily eye-catching location, at the very top of the glory list. On the first line of the glory list, the word Ouroboros was carved in big, scarlet characters. Meanwhile, below Ouroboros, the names of every team member were recorded in smaller-sized, silvery white characters. "Brother Feng, look! We're on the list! We're on the list!" Blackie was close to shedding tears of excitement after seeing his own name up on the glory list. After playing games for so many years, not once had he ever enjoyed such an honor. However, it wasn't just Blackie who behaved in such a way.
The other members of Shi Feng's party were similarly excited. They all rejoiced at being able to follow after Shi Feng, becoming official members of Zero Wing Workshop. Meanwhile, the various guilds standing in the distance all looked towards the glory list with eyes full of envy.
For as long as future players arrived at the Dark Moon Graveyard, they would inevitably see these names, giving their admiration and worship. On the other hand, the upper echelons of the various guilds present had instead looked towards the icy cold, gentle snow, expressions of respect and helplessness appearing on their faces. Everyone was clear about the difficulty of the Dark Moon Graveyard. Absolutely none of them would think that the Hell mode of Dark Moon Graveyard was easier than the normal mode. At the very least, the difficulty in Hell mode would be several times higher. However, despite all odds, the team led by Gentle Snow had succeeded in raiding it. Moreover, she had even brought along a few independent players instead of bringing along the strongest team in her guild. The Snow Goddess had clearly surpassed them in terms of leadership and personal strength by leaps and bounds. They were on two completely different levels. Up to this point, these upper echelons had all begun to think that their luck was just too poor. Being tasked in the same town as the Snow Goddess had sealed their fates at becoming merely the grass that sets off the color of her flower. "We will need to wait 3 more days before being able to enter the Dark Moon Graveyard again. During this time, would you be interested in joining us in raiding the Goblin Factory?" Gentle Snow earnestly invited Shi Feng. Although Gentle Snow's voice was not loud, the outside of the Dark Moon Graveyard was extremely quiet. Even from a distance, her voice could very clearly be heard. The upper echelons of the various guilds were all dumbfounded. Just who was this Shi Feng exactly? The Snow Goddess was actually inviting him from one dungeon raid to another. Could the Snow Goddess have possibly fallen for him? However, why would the highly haughty Snow Goddess fall for such an unattractive brat? Moreover, the person did not possess even the slightest hint of an expert. Meanwhile, standing at a distance, Flaming Tiger's eyes had nearly popped out of his sockets, going crazy from envy. Not only was Shi Feng able to be in the same team as the Snow Goddess, he was even able to leave his name on the glory list. Flaming Tiger's hatred for Shi Feng immediately increased by hundreds of folds. Just as everyone was shocked at such a scene, hundreds of players suddenly appeared and surrounded Shi Feng and his team, each and every one of them filled with a murderous intent. "Brat, we meet again." Iron Sword Lion slowly walked out from the tide of players, sending Shi Feng a cold glare as he sneered. Chapter 109. This moment. Iron Sword Lion had waited for too long. He was unable to suppress the excitement in his heart. Previously, after failing the dungeon raid, he chose to give up on the endeavor. Instead, he camped outside the Dark Moon Graveyard. However, he was greatly shocked when Shi Feng and the others safely exited the dungeon, followed by the emergence of the system announcements. Although Martial Union had entered the Dark Moon graveyard, they did not gain a single thing from it.
On the other hand, not only had Shi Feng's team managed to clear the dungeon, but it was also the hard mode of Dark Moon graveyard.
Although Iron Sword Lion was a brute, he still knew that the gains from clearing the Dark Moon graveyard would not be meager. Needless to say, the harvest from Hell mode would be even more astonishing. When Martial Union first set foot in God's domain, they did not possess any significant wealth or resources. Moreover, they were unfamiliar with a game such as God's domain. Developing a guild was extremely challenging. They had to grow by competing over elite monsters, killing well-equipped players for equipment and money, and raiding party dungeons. The larger their guild became, the more wealth and resources they needed. However, they were unable to find any sources of income, only relying on robbery to sustain their guild's operation. Now that Shi Feng and his team had cleared the dungeon, it was undoubtedly good news for Iron Sword Lion. Not only would he be able to obtain revenge, but he would also be able to make a huge profit out of it, killing two birds with one stone. Boss Iron Sword, look at the shield on their guardian knight. Not only are there runes carved on it, but the shield is also giving off a faint violet hue that only secret silver equipment possess. That is definitely equipment they obtained from the Dark Moon graveyard. Boss, look at that brat's pauldrons. It is also giving off a violet hue. It is a secret silver equipment as well. The subordinates behind Iron Sword Lion salivated as they pointed towards the equipment on the bodies of Shi Feng's party members. The worst equipment currently worn by Shi Feng's party members were bronze ranked, while there were even some who had mysterious iron equipment. However, they clearly did not possess the equipment before they entered the dungeon. Hence, they must have obtained them from within the Dark Moon graveyard, which also meant that all of them were level 5 mysterious iron equipment and secret silver equipment. Every piece of the equipment was priceless. Boss, if we were to steal all of the equipment and sell them, it would solve the problem of developing our guild. Drifting Blood looked towards Shi Feng's equipment, giggling as he spoke. Iron Sword Lion nodded, thinking that Drifting Blood's words made sense. The main reason their guild was developing slowly right now was due to their lack of funds. If they stole all of the equipment worn by Shi Feng's party, then the problem of their lack of funds would be solved. Although Shi Feng's strength was not bad, even rising up to level 7, when faced with over 100 players, what more could he do? Brat, don't even think of escaping today. Be smart and hand over all your equipment, compensate me with 10 gold coins, and let me kill you back to level 0. Then, I'll consider this matter settled. Otherwise, prepare to delete your account and start all over. Iron Sword Lion glared at Shi Feng, sneering. Shi Feng looked at his surroundings, discovering that Iron Sword Lion had brought over 130 players with him. Amongst them, a majority of the players were around level 3, their equipment terribly poor. There were only slightly more than 30 players who had reached level 5, while the equipment they were using was all bronze equipment. Meanwhile, Iron Sword Lion was the strongest out of all of these players. He was wearing a suit of level 4 bronze set equipment. In a moment, employ a hit-and-run tactic as we run towards the forest. Their numbers are too great right now, so it would be bad if we get surrounded, Shi Feng said inside the team's chat. Good. My hands have been itching to PK someone for quite some time now. Blackie rubbed his fists as he spoke. The other members of Shi Feng's party all started laughing. They had long since wanted to test out the prowess of their new equipment. They intended to kill to their heart's desire. If they could each kill 2 players, it would be a 2-for-1 profit. If they could kill 3 or more, they would make a huge profit. At this moment, Gentle Snow stood out from the team and looked towards Iron Sword Lion, softly saying, Yi Feng is a friend of mine. I wonder if you can give Ouroboros some face and forget about this matter? Everyone from Ouroboros could already tell that the players from Martial Union were here for revenge, Shi Feng being their target. They wondered just what Shi Feng had done to enrage them. Was he trying to battle an entire guild just by himself? As expected,
every expert would have their own unique personalities.
Even Shi Feng was no exception to this fact. However, Martial Union was just an unrated guild. Since Ouroboros had already shown themselves, as long as the upper echelons of Martial Union had some brains, they should naturally know to back off. After all, Ouroboros was much stronger than Martial Union. Move aside, stupid hoe. I don't give a damn about Ouroboros.
If you wish to help this brat, I'll take care of you all the same.
Ironsword Lion cursed in a bad mood. Although Gentle Snow was indeed a world-shaking beauty, the equipment she wore was even more dazzling. It was especially true for the black runic greatsword in her hands.
Just a simple glance at it and one could tell that it was a high-quality secret silver weapon. It just so happened that he was also in need of such a weapon.
Moreover, if he got rid of Gentle Snow, he would be able to spread his name throughout God's domain. It was killing multiple birds with a single stone.
However, what Ironsword Lion did not know was that, because of his casual remark, the entire Dark Moon graveyard had entered a solemn state. Each and every player present looked towards Ironsword Lion in shock, inwardly admiring Ironsword Lion for his courage. Then, does that mean that you intend to start a war with Ouroboros? Gentle Snow's expression sunk, her tone abruptly turned chilly as she asked.
Although Gentle Snow casually spoke those words, the frostiness her words gave off could be felt, even by those uninvolved.
The members of Ouroboros similarly remained silent, not daring to let out even a sound as they watched Gentle Snow. Gentle Snow's angered appearance. None of them had seen it before, nor did they wish to see it. Right now, however, there was a fool that actually dared to curse at Gentle Snow. This was the first time they had witnessed such a scene. They no longer dared imagine what would happen. Bitch, the others may fear your Ouroboros, but not me. Ironsword Lion licked his lips, his eyes filled with greed as he looked at the attractive equipment on Gentle Snow's body. However, he remembered that he wanted to kill Shi Feng the most. He then turned his sights towards Shi Feng, loudly saying, "Brat, don't think that, with a bitch protecting you, you'll be able to survive through today. Rest assured, I won't let either of you get away. Brothers, go! Kill them and we'll share all of their equipment." Suddenly, over 100 players rushed at Shi Feng and his team, murder in their eyes. Ironsword Lion even took the lead as he charged towards Shi Feng, no longer able to hold back his treasured sword. Only by drenching it with Shi Feng's blood would it be able to achieve satisfaction. Hit and run as we head towards the forest. Don't overextend yourselves. Shi Feng unsheathed his pair of swords, once more commanding through the team chat. Just after Blackie and the others had taken a few steps, they suddenly discovered that Gentle Snow and the members of Ouroboros remained unmoving, intending to face the players from Martial Union head-on. They truly did not know what was going through Gentle Snow's head. However, since Gentle Snow was sticking up for Shi Feng, naturally, Shi Feng could not escape into the forest to carry out guerrilla warfare. Blackie and the others also looked towards Shi Feng with questioning gazes. Shi Feng sighed, helplessly saying, "Cola, you hold the front, and remember not to extend yourself too far out. Drowsy Sloth, pay attention to healing the others. Blackie, use Hell Flame in the areas with more people. Gluttonous Mouse, stay behind and kill the ones with low HP. Lonely Snow, you're with me." Before both sides collided with each other, the enemy's magic had already struck at Shi Feng and the others. Fireballs and frost arrows struck at the team, one after another. Ghost Chop stood in the front as he held off against the attacks. Cola, as well, rushed up in time. He raised the runic shield and activated Tough Shield. At the same time as the enemy magic landed on both Ghost Chop and Cola's shields, the heals coming from behind them similarly landed. Each of the magical attacks caused -20 to -30 damage to Ghost Chop, whereas Cola only received damages of over -10 points. The highest damage Cola received was only over -30 points. Moreover,
The attack was from a level 5 elementalist who was fully geared in bronze equipment.
As the heals landed on the two MTs, both their HPs were instantly recovered to full.
The members of Martial Union were immediately dumbstruck after seeing this sight.
It was especially true for the level 5 elementalist.
Normally, a single flame explosion from him could deal over -100 damage to an MT. However, when used on Cola, the skill only caused around -30 damage. Cola's defense was just too high. Chapter 110. Cola and Ghost Chop's defenses were just too high. In addition, the 4 healers behind them were similarly strong. The attacks from the mages of Martial Union had absolutely no effect on the two MTs. As for attacking the other members, with the two MTs blocking up front, Martial Union had no way of attacking them at all. Don't panic. Just keep killing. We outnumber them by 6 to 1. We'll kill them, even if we have to throw bodies at them. Assassins, circle around and kill the healers. Iron Sword Lion was similarly having a headache towards the two MTs. However, his many years of battle experience allowed him to quickly think of a solution. At that moment, the team announcement for Ouroboros rang out. System. Team Martial Union has initiated an attack against your team. For the next 2 hours, all members within the team are be able to freely retaliate without receiving any punishment. Without the need to worry about becoming a red player, everyone became much more motivated. You dare initiate a war against us, Ouroboros? None of you know the immensity of heaven and earth. All of you, die! The Flame Witch, Zhao Yueru, could finally display her frightening might. After her hand traced out the final incantation in the air, one of her ultimate skill, Frost Flame Explosions, activated. Magic struck Martial Union's MT, causing a series of damages over -200 points and instantly reduced his HP to a critical level. However, shortly after, the healers of Martial Union quickly pulled their MT's HP back up. Fire Dragon's Roar. Zhao Yueru revealed a smile as she finished chanting her incantation. She lightly pointed a finger at that MT, causing the fire mana in her surroundings to gather at the tip of her finger. In the blink of an eye, a gigantic fire dragon appeared and rushed at that MT, devouring him whole. Even with over half of his HP remaining, the MT of Martial Union instantly died. The melee players of Martial Union all sucked in a cold breath. The MT that had just fallen was Martial Union's core MT. He was equipped with a complete set of level 4 bronze set equipment, and he was also using a level 5 bronze shield. The top mages within the guild could only cause -80 to -90 damage to him. Now, even though there were healers healing him, he was still killed in 2 moves. Just how high was that female elementalist's damage? During Martial Union's momentary pause, Blackie had finished chanting the incantation of Hell Flame. Immediately, pillars of green-colored flame appeared amongst the areas with a high density of players. The pillars of flame that shot towards the sky caused over -300 damage each second to every player, and within an instant, over 10 players lost their lives. The players from Martial Union were all dumbfounded at this sight. A single spell killed over 10 players. Just how are they supposed to contend against this? Don't be afraid. Spread out a bit. They'll be finished as long as we can get close to them. Iron Sword Lion shouted confidently. The members of Martial Union felt what Iron Sword Lion said was logical. They then continued charging towards the group from Ouroboros, starting a melee battle. The players from Martial Union were many, and very quickly, they surrounded everyone from Ouroboros. Gentle Snow raised her sword, immediately using charge to send 3 players flying. With a wave of the runic sword, Gentle Snow used cleave, dealing over -450 damage to the 6 level 3 players that rushed at her. As a result, all 6 of those players directly fell. The players from Martial Union did not know just how frightening a berserker with 50 strength was. With just 20 strength, a berserker could snap a common weapon in half with only their bare hands.
If a berserker had 50 strength, one could just imagine how frightening they were. After killing the first wave of players, Gentle Snow rushed headlong into the crowd.
Like a flood dragon entering the ocean, Gentle Snow wreaked havoc amidst martial union.
A fierce gale unfolded as Gentle Snow used Whirlwind Slash. The players within a 5-yard radius around her were all sent flying upwards, and damages of over -500 points appeared above their heads.
The players crashed heavily into the ground, becoming deader than dead.
The healers standing at the backlines could not even manage to heal them before they were slaughtered. The players from Martial Union who surrounded Gentle Snow were scared to a tremble. The aura Gentle Snow emanated was just too frightening, snatching away their courage. As for the other players from Martial Union, every one of them were still valiantly attacking, using their skills on the members of Ouroboros. However, each of their attacks only managed to cause -40 to -50 damage. On the other hand, a single hit from the players of Ouroboros took away over half of their HP. Just 2 hits left them dead, and not even the healers could manage to save them in time. The players from Martial Union quickly discovered a problem, that, although they had the advantage of numbers on their side, the majority of them were all new players to God's domain. In other words, they were noobs. Not only was the difference in their levels huge, the gap in their equipment was even more ridiculous. Only the elites of Martial Union could barely contend with the members of Ouroboros. Meanwhile, on the side of Ouroboros, there was a beauty of a cleric that always gave out a heal and truth shield at the most crucial of moments, saving the members of Ouroboros from death. As a result, the members of Martial Union went mad with frustration. However, even though they wished to kill off this cleric, the person, herself, was constantly being protected by 2 assassins. As long as any player rushed at the group, a chain of attacks from the 2 assassins would massacre them. In the end, the members of Martial Union were caught in a stalemate. They could neither advance nor retreat. All assassins use stealth and get rid of their healers. Without healers, their deaths are all but guaranteed. Ironsword Lion bellowed in the team chat. If half a dozen assassins from Martial Union could sneak over with stealth, they could easily kill off a cleric if they joined hands with each other. Drifting Blood, where is that brat? I want to personally kill him myself, Ironsword Lion asked in a rage. He glanced at the surroundings, but failed to discover Shi Feng's figure at all. Their losses from this battle today would definitely be huge, and all of it was due to Shi Feng. Ironsword Lion would naturally not let Shi Feng escape. Boss Ironsword, I don't see the brat here either. He seems to have vanished, Drifting Blood anxiously replied. Find him. He must be found. Ironsword Lion's rage burned. The person he wanted to kill the most had disappeared. If this news were to spread, he would definitely become a laughingstock. At this moment, Shi Feng had already snuck to Martial Union's backline through the use of Shadow of Nothingness. This location should be it. Shi Feng looked at the surrounding terrain. He then cancelled the Shadow of Nothingness, suddenly appearing some distance behind the healers of Martial Union. Meanwhile, the healers of Martial Union were currently busy healing the players on the front lines, failing to discover Shi Feng's appearance. Windblade. Shi Feng turned into a fierce gale, sweeping towards the healers of Martial Union. While in the middle of chanting a prayer, a male cleric suddenly found a pitch-black sword piercing through his chest. Following which, he felt a burst of pain at his neck before the sight before him turned dull gray. Under Shi Feng's blade, a level 5 cloth-armored cleric was no different than a piece of paper. A normal strike from Shi Feng's sword was able to cause over -330 damage. With just two basic attacks, Shi Feng could kill off a single cleric. If he were to use a skill, he could practically kill a cleric with every attack. Ah! There's an assassin! The female cleric nearby screamed when she witnessed this scene. She did not think that the male cleric would die so quickly or so cruelly. Yi Feng. Ironsword Lion immediately turned his head towards the backlines,
discovering Shi Feng rapidly harvesting their healers, just like sheep entering a tiger's mouth. Iron Sword Lion's eyes nearly cracked open in rage at this sight.
He loudly bellowed as he rushed at Shi Feng.
Unfortunately, Shi Feng's speed was extremely fast.
The healers held no chance of escaping Shi Feng's blades.
In mere moments, Shi Feng claimed more than 10 healers' lives. Without healers, the front line of martial union started to quickly crumble as gentle snow and the others butchered them. Die! Iron Sword Lion's eyes turned crimson red. He used Wind Blade, his sword stabbing towards Shi Feng's back. Now that their healers were all dead, it was needless to say that they would lose this battle. Meanwhile, Shi Feng was the main perpetrator for all of this.
If he did not kill Shi Feng, he vowed not to be a human. After annihilating all the healers, Shi Feng currently picked up the equipment they dropped.
When he discovered Iron Sword Lion rushing over, he did not even turn his head as he tightened his grip on the abyssal blade.
Then, with a twist of his body, Shi Feng slashed the abyssal blade down at Iron Sword Lion's pair of swords.
Pung! Iron Sword Lion was forced to retreat several steps before he managed to stabilize his body, his face filled with shock as he looked at Shi Feng. Shi Feng's casual swing of his sword forced Iron Sword Lion into retreating so many steps.
Such a feat was absolutely impossible without a huge difference regarding strength. After reaching level 7, Shi Feng placed all his free attribute points into strength. Shi Feng's strength was even higher than Gentle Snow's, not to mention Iron Sword Lion's, who had only average equipment. However, Iron Sword Lion did not know this. After knocking Iron Sword Lion back with a single slash, Shi Feng gave Iron Sword Lion no time to think before following up with a double chop.
Shi Feng's pair of swords instantly transformed into 4 sword images, slashing towards Iron Sword Lion.
With this many sword images sweeping towards him, although Iron Sword Lion tried to block all of them with all his might, he only managed to block 2 of them. There were still 2 sword images that pierced his body, each causing -180 damage.
Iron Sword Lion hurriedly retreated, taking out a basic recovery potion and drinking it.
Seeing that he was no match for Shi Feng, Iron Sword Lion tried to turn tail and run. However, within a split second, 3 lightning flashes entered his eyes. Before his body could even defend against the streaks of lightning, damages of -266, -352, and -463 appeared above his head.
Iron Sword Lion instantly died under Shi Feng's swords. At his death, Iron Sword Lion dropped a piece of equipment and 1 other item.